I can still close my eyes and relive that exact moment. The grand wedding hall, bathed in warm golden lights, hundreds of crystal chandeliers sparkling above. The air, thick with the sweet fragrance of fresh roses and jasmine garlands. Soft Chennai music playing in the background. And then, my own father's voice, loud and clear, cutting through all the joy like a sharp knife. Ladies and gentlemen, we are truly grateful to Arjun's family for accepting our daughter Mira. Even though she has always been the family shame, those words hit me like a thunderbolt. My entire body went cold. My legs felt weak. My heart started hammering so loudly that I thought the whole hall could hear it. I stood there on the beautifully decorated stage in my heavy red bridal lehenga, mehendi-covered hands trembling inside Arjun's warm grip. Tears burned at the back of my eyes, but I fought desperately to hold them back. In that single moment, 17 years of pain, rejection, and silent suffering came crashing down on me. Hello, everyone. My name is Mira Verma. I am 27 years old today. For years, I kept this story buried deep inside my heart, but now I am ready to share it with all of you. Raw, emotional, painful, and ultimately hopeful. This is the story of a scar that my own parents turned into my identity. The story of betrayal by the two people who were supposed to love and protect me the most. The story of how one man's truth changed everything. Let me take you back to the very beginning. To that fateful, stormy night that changed my life forever. It was July. I was only 9 years old, a small, innocent, happy girl who loved dolls and drawing. That night, heavy rain was pouring outside. I was sitting in the back seat of our old white Maruti car, wearing my favorite pink frock, tightly hugging my doll named Dolly. My parents were fighting again. Their voices were loud, angry, and full of bitterness. Papa was shouting at Mama. Mama was crying and accusing him. I was scared. I curled myself into a small ball in the corner of the seat and kept whispering again and again, "Please stop fighting. Please don't fight. I'm scared." Papa was driving very fast despite the dangerous rain. The windshield wipers were moving frantically, but the visibility was almost zero. Suddenly, there was a loud honk from an oncoming vehicle. Papa swerved the car sharply in panic. The tires skidded on the wet road. There was a terrible crash. The sound of shattering glass still echoes in my nightmares. A large piece of broken window glass slashed deep across the left side of my neck and shoulder. The pain was indescribable, burning, sharp, overwhelming. I screamed at the top of my lungs. Blood was flowing everywhere, soaking my pink frock. My mother turned back, and in her panic screamed, "Mira, oh God, look what you've done. You always create problems for this family." Even while I was bleeding profusely and terrified for my life, they blamed a 9-year-old child. We reached City General Hospital. I was semi-conscious, crying continuously in pain. Doctors and nurses rushed me into the emergency room. One of the senior surgeons who worked tirelessly that night to save my life was Colonel Rayesh Sharma, who would later become my father-in-law, though none of us knew it at that time. He carefully cleaned the wound, stopped the bleeding, and put in many stitches. He told my parents that the injury was serious and I would need regular follow-up care and possibly plastic surgery later, but my parents didn't listen. They told everyone, doctors, relatives, neighbors, a completely different story. Mira was playing carelessly and fell down. They never mentioned the fight. They never admitted that Papa was driving recklessly in the rain. They just wanted to protect their own image and reputation. They took me home after a few days without completing the full treatment. The wound healed poorly. It left a thick, prominent, dark scar running down the left side of my neck and shoulder. From that day onward, my childhood was stolen from me. My parents started treating me differently. My elder brother Rowan was their everything. The golden child, the pride of the family. He was praised for every small achievement. I, on the other hand, became the girl with the mark, the constant reminder of that unfortunate night. The family shamed at every family function. My mother would make sure I wore clothes that completely covered my scar. If any guest noticed it, she would quickly say in a sad voice, "Bokpan mean gur gay thi. Bohot careless thi na." They made me feel ugly, unworthy, burdensome, and unwanted. I started avoiding mirrors. I stopped wearing beautiful clothes. I became quiet, withdrawn, and always tried to stay invisible. Years passed like this. I studied hard, stayed obedient, and tried my best to earn their love. But nothing was ever enough. Then one day, Arjun came into my life like a gentle ray of warm sunshine after years of darkness. We met at a cousin's wedding. He was respectful, well-mannered, educated, and had the kindest eyes I had ever seen. When we started talking, I felt comfortable for the first time. He never made me feel self-conscious. When he eventually saw my scar, he gently touched it with care and said, "This scar doesn't make you less beautiful, Mira. It shows how strong you are. You are a survivor." I cried uncontrollably that night after reaching home. Someone had finally seen me as worthy of love. Our relationship grew slowly and beautifully. But my parents were never happy. They tried everything possible to create misunderstandings. They told Arjun's family negative things about me. They reminded me daily that I was lucky. Someone was ready to accept me. With that mark on my body, despite all their efforts, Arjun chose me. He fought for us. He proposed to me with a beautiful ring and tears in his eyes. The wedding preparations started. My parents smiled in front of relatives, but at home they continued their taunts. Humari is at Kasal High. Kisi Tara say ya shadi ho jay. Finally, the big day arrived. I spent almost the entire morning getting ready. The heavy red lehenga with intricate gold work, the beautiful jewelry, the long veil, and the makeup that took hours to carefully cover my scar as much as possible. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I whispered softly, "Today is my day. No one can take my happiness away. This is my new beginning." But I was wrong. When Arjun and I stood on the beautifully decorated stage for the formal family introduction, my father took the microphone. He smiled at the crowd with that same fake, practiced smile I had seen my entire life. And then he spoke those devastating words loudly and clearly. "We are so grateful to Arjun's family for accepting our daughter. Even though she is the family shame with that visible mark on her neck." The entire hall fell into a heavy, awkward silence. People started whispering. Some looked at me with pity, some with shock. My mother stood beside him, nodding slightly. My world shattered into 1,000 pieces. I felt humiliated, exposed, destroyed, and completely broken. Years of suppressed pain came flooding back. All the times I was hidden, all the taunts, all the nights I cried myself to sleep, asking God why my own parents hated me so much. I thought this was the end of my happiness, but then, something miraculous happened. Arjun's father, Colonel Rajesh Sharma, slowly stood up from his seat. He walked towards the stage with calm, confident steps. The entire hall became pin-drop silent. He looked at my parents for a long, intense moment. Then he looked at me, and his eyes filled with recognition and kindness. He gently took the microphone from my father's hand and began to speak. Colonel Rajesh Sharma stood on the stage with a calm but powerful presence that made the entire hall go completely silent. Everyone was watching him intently as he looked at my parents for a long moment, his eyes filled with quiet disappointment. He gently took the microphone from my father's hand and began to speak in his deep, steady voice. He described that stormy night 17 years ago in such detail that it felt like I was reliving it all over again. He told everyone how a little 9-year-old girl was brought to the hospital with severe injuries on her neck and shoulder, bleeding heavily and crying in fear while holding a small doll. He explained how the parents kept blaming the child instead of focusing on her treatment, how they left without completing the paperwork, and how they never returned for proper follow-up care. When he said my name out loud and confirmed that I was that little girl, loud gasps and whispers spread through the hall like wildfire. My mother's face turned deathly pale and my father stood frozen, unable to speak. Colonel Sharma continued without raising his voice, but every word carried the weight of truth as he told the guests that the scar I carried was not a mark of my carelessness, but the result of incomplete treatment after an accident caused by my parents' fight and reckless driving. He directly told my parents that the real shame was not on me, but on them for making their own daughter feel unworthy and broken for 17 long years. In that moment, years of suppressed pain rushed through me like a flood. All the childhood memories of being hidden from guests, being compared to my perfect brother, being told I was a burden, and crying alone at night came back so strongly that I could barely stand. Tears flowed uncontrollably down my face as Arjun pulled me into his arms right there on the stage and held me tightly. I could feel his body trembling with anger and love at the same time. The wedding continued, but the atmosphere had completely shifted. Many relatives came forward to support me, while some openly expressed disappointment in my parents. My parents stood in the corner, looking small and exposed for the first time in their lives. After the ceremonies, when we reached home, Arjun clearly told my parents that I would never be called a shame in his house again, and that if they wanted to be part of our lives, they would have to accept their mistakes and change their behavior. In the weeks that followed, I struggled deeply with emotions. Even though the truth had come out, the humiliation of that moment on stage kept replaying in my mind every single day. I had nightmares, woke up crying, and often touched my scar, feeling the old pain return. Arjun stayed beside me every night, comforting me with love and patience. I started going to therapy and writing my feelings in a journal, which slowly helped me process everything. I also began sharing small parts of my story, anonymously online, and the response was overwhelming. As hundreds of women reached out, sharing their own painful experiences of being shamed by their families. In the months after the wedding, my life slowly began to transform in ways I never expected. My parents faced real social consequences as many relatives distanced themselves and openly criticized them for what they had done. The pressure became so heavy that almost 6 months later, both my parents came to our house with tears in their eyes. My mother cried continuously as she touched my feet, and then gently touched my scar with trembling fingers, while whispering that they had been wrong and had destroyed my happiness in trying to save their own image. My father, who had never shown vulnerability in front of me, also had tears as he admitted they had been selfish and asked for forgiveness. It was not easy for me to forgive after carrying so much pain for so many years, but I chose peace over permanent anger and forgave them while also setting clear boundaries that they must respect me and never call me a shame again if they wanted to be part of our lives. With Arjun's constant love and support, I continued my healing journey. I worked on myself through therapy and found purpose by starting a small support community where girls and women who had been emotionally hurt by their families could share their stories and help each other heal. The response was beautiful, and many women told me that my courage gave them strength to speak up and stand for themselves. Today, when I stand in front of the mirror, I gently trace my scar with my fingers and smile because I no longer see it as a mark of shame, but as a powerful symbol of my survival and strength. Arjun's father gifted me a beautiful necklace on our first anniversary that elegantly covers the scar while also celebrating it as a mark of resilience. I now live a peaceful, respectful, and happy life where I work, help other women, and wake up every morning feeling grateful for the journey that brought me here. If you are watching this and you have ever been made to feel like a burden or a shame by your own family because of any scar, visible or invisible, then please remember that you are not defined by what others say about you. You are worthy of love and respect exactly as you are. The people who try to break you will one day have to face their own truth. Never hide your voice or your pain. Heal at your own pace, rise strongly, and let your light shine brightly. You are not alone in this journey. I am here, and so are thousands of other women who understand your pain. Thank you for listening to my complete story with an open heart. If this touched you, please share it with someone who needs healing and leave your thoughts in the comments below. This is Mira signing off with love, strength, and hope.